I've had some real strange jobs. I worked at Starbucks.
Do you know stuff on the secret menu?
I do know some stuff on the secret menu. Yeah, that's for offline too.
We'll talk. Guys, Smith here with Ashley Adamson. Thank you so much for making time for me today, for updating your Skype. Real.
Yeah, we had a few technical errors, but we worked through it, and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that you can hear me.
That's the business in a nutshell, right?
Exactly.
Technical difficulties, but we figured it out. So first things first, I saw that you worked at Wish TV in Indianapolis. Yeah. I went to Ball State, so shout out to our fellow Midwestern watchers right now.
Are you from Indiana?
Illinois.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I went to Ball State a couple times during my time in Indy, so they've got a great journalism program. So yeah, shout out to the Midwest.
Fancy Muncy, as they say. So I was watching an interview that you had done, and you said that one of your more embarrassing moments on TV was you were covering a college hockey game, and the play-by-play announcer goes to toss to you. You're with the coach, and you forget his name.
Yes.
Things like that happen, right? It's human error. It's real. In those moments, how do you find the confidence to learn from something like that and not let it tear you down?
Yeah, I've had that one really resonates and sticks out in my mind, but I've had plenty of times where you're on the air, you're doing a live hit, and all of a sudden, like, your brain just blanks. I mean, maybe it only happens to me, but I feel like it's happened.
No, absolutely.
Throughout my career, and it's a horrifying feeling, right? Like, especially the first couple times that it happens to you, because your body just starts to shut down and you don't know what to say. I mean, this happened to me as of, like this football season. I forgot the name of the team we were talking about. We were talking about the Arizona Wildcats, and I just like couldn't come up with it. So it happens even 12, 13 years into the business, as well as when you first start out. And I think it's just a matter of knowing that, like, it is what it is, and you have to move on. And once you've experienced it, you sort of know how to deal with it better in the future. So every gaffe that you make on television, the next time that it happens, you know how to respond to it a little bit better. So whether it's your prompter going down, whether it's that you forget the name of a coach, whether it's that you forget the name of a team, or are rambling, whatever the case may be, that all of a sudden you're on TV and you're like, what am I doing? Once you've been in that situation before, you just are more well-equipped to handle it better the next time. So, I mean, forgetting a coach's name, I always, whenever I'm about to interview someone, if I am not completely sure and saying it in my head before I get to them, I will just say, hey, coach. Like, even if it's a coach that I know really, really well and who I, talk to all the time, there are just moments that your brain kind of, deceives you. And so it's just rolling with the punches, and also, like, letting it go. Once it's happened, it's out there. It is what it is. We're not saving lives. We're working in sports television. We're human. We make errors. And so you just move on and roll with it and try and hopefully learn from it for next time.
So you said you're 12, 13 years into the business. A lot of young broadcasters do watch the Amanda Smith Show. Shout out to y'all. What advice would you give to those starting out early on in their career?
I just want to say, too, I want to give you a shout out, because I wish when I was getting into my career that I had a YouTube channel that I could go to and watch the Amanda Smith Show, because I've gone back and watched some of the women that you've interviewed who are, good friends of mine and women I also look up to in the industry. And there's so many wonderful little nuggets of wisdom that even, no matter where you are in your career, whether you're starting out or you've been doing it for 40 years, that I think you can pick up. So anyway, shout out to you. I love that you're doing this.
Thank you.
I think it's just a matter of believing that you are going to get there and just trusting the process. Because I always say, unlike if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, there's a very specific process. So A, B, and C gets you the D. In broadcasting, there's so many different ways to get to where you want to be. And that was really frustrating for me when I first started, because I had always been like, okay, I want to get here and there, and these are the steps that I need to take. And no matter, how tough they are, how much hard work it takes, that eventually you're going to get to where you want to be. In broadcasting, it doesn't work like that. I say that it's like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but the tunnel is circular, and you don't really realize that. And so all of a sudden you're going, it's dark. You just keep going. And then all of a sudden, bam, the train's going to hit you full on. And that's when the opportunity comes, and you have to be ready for it. So I think part of it is just trusting that all the little things that you're doing in internships and the people that you meet and the networking that you do, all of that matters, even when it feels like it doesn't. And taking jobs that aren't going to be your dream job right away. I mean, my very first job out of graduate school, I was working overnight as a news production assistant in Albany, New York, which, certainly wasn't my dream job, but it was exactly what I needed at the time. I learned the news industry. I learned television. I had some great friends and mentors there, and that was able to sort of catapult me to the next thing. So it's all about making the most of wherever you are and whatever opportunity you have. And then it's also about, going out and doing exactly what you're doing, which is deciding what you are passionate about and what you care about and creating content around that. Because these days there are so many different ways to create content, whether it's a YouTube channel or a podcast or whatever it is. You don't have to wait for that first TV job to get your face out there.
I think oftentimes too, it feels sometimes like maybe you're not getting recognition for the work you're doing, or you're putting in all these hours and it seems like nothing's happening. How would you describe the importance of not letting moments like that affect your dream and your goals in the long run?
Yeah, that's a good question and a good point. And I think that you just have to know that it's a really long process, and that it's always when you think that I shed plenty of tears in my early jobs that were really hard, and you're living in places that you don't know anybody, and you're, not making a lot of money, and you're trying to make this dream that you have happen. And there are all of these reasons that you can see around you for why it might not happen, or when am I going to get that call, or how am I going to make that jump? And then it just, I've been really lucky and I've had some really great opportunities, but it is also, I've had a lot of good friends who were super talented who just, they were worn down by the process. And I respect that. Like, I think that's what I tell young people all the time is, if you want to get into this, you just have to know that it's going to be a grind, and that it's going to be a grind for a while. And so if you're up for that, like, great, hell yeah, go get it. And if you're not, that's awesome. And like, be honest with yourself, because if you don't have that insatiable drive, like, you're not, when it gets tough, and when you're shooting high school girls soccer in the rain at 11 p.m. at night on a Tuesday, and you feel like, what on earth am I doing with my life and my career? Those moments that you just have to believe that, like, this is all leading to something. And it does. I wouldn't trade a single experience that I had in my earlier career now, because it really helped inform how I do my job, how much I appreciate my job now at Pac-12, and all of those experiences and all the people that you get to meet. I think that's the other thing. What I would love to say is, you get to meet so many unbelievable people in this industry, and that truly starts from the very beginning. So when you're in the small markets, or when you're in the smaller jobs and you're working your way up towards being a big star, those people that you meet early on, they are almost in part what make this job worthwhile. To me, I felt that way. And I've made some wonderful friends and some great connections, and I've been around some phenomenal people that just give you a lot of perspective about your life. And it's bigger than just, telling the game story of what happened in the basketball game or the wrestling match or whatever it is. So I think that's one thing that I would keep in mind, is that it's about the people and it's about the process, and just trust it and know that if you work your butt off, those like really tough times are going to feel so worth it when you've actually, quote unquote, made it, whatever that means.
Out here straight preaching. Okay, so I Googled you. Oops, I'm just going to tell you. And I want to ask you, do you also work part-time as a professor?
Yeah, so I haven't taught that class in a couple of years, but I do teach
cool.
at USF. Yeah, it's funny because when I first went to Boston College, and I was an English major, and I thought that maybe I was going to be a teacher. That was something that I've always thought about and enjoyed, at least the prospect of. So I got my first teaching job when I lived in Indy. I actually taught at IUPUI. And then when I moved out here, I reached out to USF, their sports management program. They do a great job over there. Dan Rasher runs it. And I said, hey, I've got some free time and I would love to teach. And so I put together a storytelling course that I taught for 3 or 4 years. And I loved it. It's teaching. I have so much respect for teachers. Teaching is so much harder than anything you do on television. It's immediate feedback. So if you say something or you're talking and it's not resonating, like when you're just talking into a TV camera and it's not resonating, like you don't really know. But when you're talking to a class full of really intelligent young people, you know right away whether or not you're getting through to them. So it is, the feedback is in real time, but it was super rewarding, and I've loved it. had my first baby 2 years ago. And so I kind of put the teaching on hiatus to spend a little bit more time at home in my spare time, which is non-existent these days.
But you were working on air then. So even with the job that you had, why was it still important to you to take that time to give back and teach?
Yeah, I think for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a big fan of always finding different ways to challenge yourself. And so, not that I wasn't feeling challenged at my job at Pac-12, I feel challenged there every day, and each day is a new challenge. And we're a startup, still, we're 7 years in, but there are still so many things that we're working through. So I feel challenged there, but I've always loved the idea of connecting with people and being able to share whatever insights I may have. And storytelling is a huge passion of mine. And so I thought it might be a good challenge, one, something different for me to do, because it's like I said, it's way harder than anything I've done in broadcasting. And two, yeah, I think being able to find something outside of your, main career that you feel passionate about and that is something that stimulates you, whatever that may look like, is important. And I got to meet a lot of great people. I'm still in touch with a lot of my former students. A lot of them have come and worked at the Pac-12, and it's been really cool, and it's really gratifying to see, young people who you hope that in some small way something you said helped them out, but to see what they're often doing, because it doesn't feel like that long ago that I was sitting in that chair. It was longer than I'd like to admit, but it doesn't feel that long ago that I was sitting in that chair, asking those questions.
That is so cool. I was like, am I reading this right?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it was cool. I will get back to it eventually.
Okay, I just want to play a quick 3-question fill in the blank game with you. We'll get to know you a little bit better. Something most people don't know about me is?
I broke 2 bones in my wrist playing charades.
Oh, a competitor.
Yeah. And that was on Thanksgiving with my future in-laws, and it was an intense game of charades. So I can tell that story more in depth if anyone's interested offline later, probably.
Okay, perfect. I'll take you up on that. When I'm not working, you can find me.
With my kids and my husband. I have 2 little ones, a 2-month-old almost and a 2-year-old. So yeah, I like to spend as much of my time away from work with the family. And then I also love going to sporting events. It's fun to go to sporting events that you're not working at, because you get to kind of watch them and enjoy them in a different way, as you, I'm sure, know. So yeah.
Shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Some beer.
Push your hand.
Exactly.
So no, I do love spending time, on our campuses. Stanford and Cal are both close by, so I go to a fair amount of stuff there. And yeah, but I'd say enjoying the city of San Francisco and home with my kids as much as possible.
Final question: a non-broadcast job I had was?
Oh my God, I've had so many weird jobs. I was a high school freshman B team basketball coach after I graduated college.
Hey.
That's pretty cool. I also worked at the Ground Round, which is in Boston. It was like a lesser Applebee's. I was a waitress for them. So I learned a lot about hard work and no thanks for all of your hard work in that job. But yeah, I've had some real strange jobs.
Okay, we have some amazing fan questions for you this week, so I want to get to as many as we can. So Brandon C. Smith 5 says he loves watching you on Pac-12 Network. Between media days, pregame and postgame shows, you have a lot on your plate. How do you juggle everything you do?
Yeah, well, Brandon, thanks for the question. I think the biggest thing that I have enjoyed about Pac-12, and I think Kate Scott said this when she did her interview with you as well, is that there is a huge diversity of what we get to do just by the nature of the network. There's a lot of, we have put 850 live events on the air, and we do a lot of shoulder programming a lot around those events. And we just started up with podcasts for our women's basketball teams as well as our men's. So there's a lot going on at any given point. And I think it's being able to just focus in on the one thing that you're doing that day and not feeling overwhelmed by, okay, well, next week I've got A, B, and C. Like, how am I going to prep for that? It's just you focus on the task at hand. I remember when we first started, when we launched, and that was one of the craziest times of my life. It was hectic, to say the least. I got there 2 weeks before we went on the air, and did all of these preview shows for every single fall sport. So I'm doing a half an hour cross country preview show about, to be quite frank, cross country teams that I know nothing about. And so I'm trying to write the scripts and figure out what video we have. And I'm working with a producer, and I felt so overwhelmed and terrified. And the way that I got through it was just whatever that day was, like that was what I was all in on. That I was all in on cross country. I was all in on volleyball. It was whatever it was. And slowly but surely you build up this sort of reservoir of knowledge that you apply, and it becomes easier going forward. It's just like anything that you do, the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel. And preparation to me is the key to all of it. So being super prepared is really important. It makes you feel comfortable and kind of helps you with any jitters that you feel. But also trying really hard not to over prepare and get bogged down in all of the nuances and knowing every single story and feeling like you have to, be an expert in all things. It's about being able to tell good stories and being yourself on the air. And so I think, to answer Brandon's question in a very long-winded way, I think it's just about focusing on the task at hand that day. And whatever that looks like, throwing yourself into it and worrying about tomorrow and what you're going to do tomorrow, and trying to, stay ahead a little bit, but just focus on what you've got right in front of you.
So next question, Roseanne Sapia says, how do you balance being a mom with your career?
Good question, Roseanne. I think that being a mom has made me a better broadcaster or worker, however you want to say that, because it's given me a lot of perspective. And I think I have been able to, when I'm at work, I'm all in on work. And when I'm at home, I try really hard. I'm not always great at it, but I try really hard to be all in at home, because the one thing that happens in this industry, I think, and I can speak from personal experience, is that everything feels so heavy and monumental sometimes, and you forget that you're working in sports television and it's fun. And if you mess up, like, it's not the end of the world. Yeah. Do you like messing up? Of course not. But is it going to happen? Are they going to run the wrong sound? Are they not going to use the soundbite that you want in that feature that you want to use so badly? All of these things that feel so important and like life-changing, and oh my God, I can't believe this is awful. It all sort of, that like dissipates when you come home and you've got two kids who don't give rats behind about all the stuff that happened in your day at work. So I think it's actually given me a ton of great perspective to be able to separate, and you can leave work at work. It used to be when my job was my whole life, you brought it home by nature of it. So if you had a bad day at work, you had a bad day at home. But now you have a bad day at work, you get to go home and you get to kind of restart, and you get to have a good night at home or a good day at home, whatever that looks like. So I have found that it's been really good for me professionally to become a mom, which feels backwards than what they tell you. Everyone freaks you out about, oh, once you're a mom, like, forget about it. You're not going to be able to be a working woman. And I found the opposite. And the other thing I would say about that too, for young women and for, women who are going to be moms and who want to be in this industry, there was a weird feeling that I had, and I don't know where I got it from or if I'm the only one that had it, but there was a weird feeling that I had before I became a mom, in that, like, once I became a mom, I was going to be like the old weird mom, like I wasn't going to be the one that that was going to be like cool and be able to, talk to and be on the same wavelength as the players and the coaches. And what I realized is it's like the opposite. Becoming a parent has allowed me to connect with the coaches, who are, most of them are parents, in a totally different and unique way. And also, like, I understand the student athletes differently than I did before I became a mom, because I also understand where their parents are coming from. And I see them in a different light than I did before. So it's helped me in a lot of different ways. And, it's not perfect. You have mom guilt, just like, everybody talks about, like, it's real. And when you're at work, sometimes you feel like you should be at home. And when you're at home, you feel like you should be doing some work. But the biggest advice I can give is just to, wherever you are, be there fully and try to turn your phone off, try to turn your computer off when you're at home. And then when you're at work, like, know that your kids are safe and in good hands, and work your butt off.
Tim Rushi says, Pac-12 college football predictions.
I think it's going to be a really interesting season, because, we always, at this time of year, as media days are coming up, we're trying to predict what's going to happen and who's going to be good. And I think this year, as much as anything else, like, we have no idea. I do think Utah is going to be awesome. I have a good feeling about Utah. It'll be interesting to see what their offense looks like with, a different offensive coordinator. But I'm excited about Utah. I think what Kyle Whittingham is doing and has done in Salt Lake City is special and unbelievable. And he's got a great staff and great buy-in from his players. And then I also think, Washington is Washington, and Chris Peterson is one of the best in the business. And they lose NFL caliber guys every single year. And every single year, especially on the defense, they just reload and new and different guys show up. So I'm excited to see UW. And then I'm really curious to see what happens with Stanford as well. I think I just spent some time down there last month, and there's some excitement about what they have, and KJ Costello coming back, what's he going to do as a quarterback? So I don't know that I'm actually like predicting anything. I guess if I'm going to make a bold prediction, I'm going to say that Utah is going to be back in the Pac-12 championship game. And I don't know that they're going to win it, but yeah, I'm going to say that Utah's back in the Pac-12 championship game, and it might be a rematch. It might be UW-Utah again.
All right, I'm gonna pull this clip when it happens.
Here you go.
Post it on Twitter. I got you. Okay, final question is from JMBus94, and he would like to know who has been someone that's been a role model or an influence for you in this career?
Oh my gosh, so many people. That's a good question, and I think I've gotten inspiration from a lot of different people. So there are people within the industry who I look up to. Doris Burke, she's like my unicorn. Like, I love
She's everyone's unicorn, right?
She's just the best, right? Like, she's so real. She's so good. She just nails it every single time. I love Doris. So that's someone who I think I look up to. But I want to give a shout out to all the women and men in this industry who have taken time to help me out, whether it's a small piece of advice or lunch or coffee or an informational interview or whatever it is. I've had so many different people be really good to me over the years as I've grown and worked my way up the ladder. And I couldn't name all of them right now because I'd eventually leave someone out, and no one wants me to sit here and rattle off all these names. But there have been so many people. And the one thing that I will say, and this was advice that one of my main mentors, Bill Fine, who's the general manager at WCVB in Boston, he told me at the end of my internship with their station when I was in college, I said, I feel bad that I'm never going to be able to repay you for all the advice and time that you've given me. And he said, no, you won't. And that's fine. The one thing I ask you is that when you're in a position to help other people, just pay it forward. And if we all keep doing that, like that's the goal. And so I have taken that advice to heart. And whenever there's an opportunity to talk to anyone, whether it's a student or someone who's in the business or someone who wants to be in the business, yeah, of course, I said yes to you in a second, because of course, like, what you're doing is awesome and I love it. And it's been great chatting with you. But I think people would be amazed at how much people in this industry are willing to help, because all of us had a ton of help being lifted up. Like, you don't make it in this business without a lot of people looking out for you and giving you advice and showing you the ropes. So I've had some great bosses. I've had some great mentors. And there's so many people that I look up to and who I see, making it happen. And especially, I think, the moms out there, like Sage Steele is someone who I absolutely love, who I actually had her old job in Indy at Wish TV. She's phenomenal. She does a great job, and she obviously is a mom. And I think seeing women in this business who are able to find that balance, whatever it looks like for them in terms of being a mom and being a professional on the air, like, I shout out to them, because they inspire me for sure.
And shout out to you. You inspire me. So thank you for being on my show today.
I really appreciate you having me on. It was my pleasure.
All right, guys. For Ashley Adamson, I'm Amanda Smith. We'll see you next time.